if we can reclaim and recapture and start to think differently about self-promotion, what would you like to do to improve your self-promotion? And so here I want you to be really specific. What would you like to do to improve your self-promotion? Is it, I want more conversations with whomever, and you would know the whomever. I want my work in these locations. I want to network more and get to know more people who do this work and be able to collaborate with them. How would you like to improve your self promotion? So let's move forward and talk about when and why self-promotion is valuable for different career stages. And I want you to take a moment to just kind of walk through this list with me, because I'd like to see where you think you are in this list. So as I walk through this, you know, think about which number probably most represents where you are right now in your career stage and with your goals. So we know that self-promotion can help us to gain references, advocates, and mentors, and that's both internal to your institution as well as external, right? In other areas, it's going to be to influence social thought or large scale policies, like either government policies or maybe institutional policies, like where you work right now, or organizations that you want to influence to do a certain thing. For others of you, it's going to be about establishing sort of a program around your body of work. So you may be at that stage where it's really, how do I start to gather the things I've done into a national reputation, into thinking about myself as thought leader and positioning myself among my colleagues, and even perhaps among funders and philanthropic organizations, in terms of the reputation in your body of work, right? Another may be to build support for things like a favorable review or for tenure. The other, gaining access to new collaborators. And then invitations. And I put invitations to new job opportunities or new leadership opportunities, but really this can be invitations to many different things. It might be invitations to join a grant or a research team. It might be invitations to do things that are unpublished, right? Let's think about it that way, right? So things that you don't actually see that are published out there, but where, because your name is out there, they're coming to you because people know about what you do, what you care about, and where you're going. These invitations come to you. So when you see this list, what would you say is priority for you at this moment? And Hannah, I see you added one on here that's really important and foundational. And she said, just updating her elevator speech. How do I say who I am and what I'm doing right now? Right? So for others of you, where do you feel like you land? Great. Immediately number 6. Okay. That's great. We've got a lot of 3s and 6s in here. Yes. Which says to me that some of you are on the stage of either wanting a shift or you want more visibility in what you're doing. A shift, more visibility, and perhaps even more visibility for the work that you're advancing. That's what it really sounds like to me. We've got a lot of 3s and 6s. Awesome. And I see 1s. Yeah, gaining references. For those of you who are thinking about the references, advocates, and mentors, is this more internal or external? I hear you, Abigail. Yeah, all of them apply, right? So we'll start with number 3. Yeah, internal and external. Okay, Eugenia. Great. So we're seeing that you can kind of place yourself then as we move through the examples. So I just want to go through some common perceptions about self-promotion so we can just get those out of the way. And I think we've heard a little bit about it already, but I want to do this because I want to help you reframe. So my training is a coach. I coach professionals, not strictly faculty members, but I coach professionals and really how to take that next level of leadership and how to transition their careers in the directions that they really want to go. So taking ownership over it and being able to really push the initiatives that are going to help them to do that. And so the way that I'm going to present this is because I know as a coach, I've been doing this for several years now. I know as a coach, I can give you the strategy, but if we haven't first dealt with mindset, that is the way that you think about the thing, you're not going to be able to implement with what I share with you today. So I want to do some of this reframing to help us get around mindset so we can feel more empowered and confident, as you all said, in doing what I'm going to show you how to do. So common perception number one, and you've heard this, I'm sure, my work should speak for itself. If I do good work and I stay focused, the right people will notice. Hello. Yes, Marissa, she admitted to it. Yes, I say this all the time. And so, Angela, it speaks to you. Yeah. And a lot of this is because we've been socialized in different ways about thinking about how we do what we do, and people should just recognize us. And so I'd like to offer a reframing. And it puts some onus on you and on me, right? It is my responsibility to ensure that my efforts and my accomplishments do not go overlooked. Notice I say efforts and accomplishments because you all are working hard. I worked hard for all my wins, even the small ones. I want to make it easier for my colleagues to celebrate me and recommend me for new opportunities. So we want to capture the efforts and the accomplishments, right? We want to show our work. It's not easy to do what you do. So we're going to show your work and make it easy for people to recommend you. Now, let's look at another one. Another common misperception. I don't want to appear self-absorbed, boastful, or even outshine my peers by telling my colleagues, and this is just an example, right? Because I hear this a lot when people get good news. So it's, I don't want to appear self-absorbed or boastful or outshine my peers by telling my colleagues about this invitation I just received to speak at this international conference. After all, this is what I should be doing. Does this sound familiar? Yes. And Omar is, yes, I hear you. It's especially because it's hard for women of color to be recommended or to be seen. Yeah. And so it's, how do we help people to see us? So this last one, by sharing the news of this invitation with my department, I give my colleagues insights into what I've been working on. I strengthen my relationships with senior colleagues who will review my promotion in years to come. Sharing with them is a quick way to demonstrate that I am a productive member of our department and school. Just another example, okay? And I do want to hit this one because I hear this a lot. In academia, a lot of our projects are long range, right? An article takes some time to get to publication. And, you know, what do I share in the meantime, right? So a lot of what I hear is, I don't have anything to share. Everything I'm working on right now is in progress. I'll share when my book, article, grant, or insert whatever your big long-term goal is here, when it's done. Right? We often think that way. But what if we reframe to say every significant accomplishment is achieved incrementally? I honor my progress and my results. I share milestones so my colleagues and peers get to know me and my goals better, and to receive accountability, support, and unexpected opportunities. So just another reframe. Another refrain. And so, Omaris, I want to hold that question as we move forward. So I think we're getting the point. I want to bring that back up because I think this is an important one that a number of people are asking. We want to think about self-promotion as a tool, or socializing your work as a tool to bring awareness to your efforts, as a form of self-advocacy. How are people going to know about it if you don't share about it? You can publish the article, but if people aren't in the journal at the right time and the right place, or the right person hasn't seen it, they've missed it. Right? So we're going to get away from bragging and opportunism and random social media posts and get into more intentional and authentic ways of communicating. And so I do want to address some of these barriers. You've mentioned some of them already. Some barriers that you may be experiencing, from self-criticism to imposter syndrome, maybe even the fact that it feels off-putting, right? And others are external, right? The environment may not be appropriate, or you're not sure what to share because you're not sure about the culture, or the culture may not be conducive. It might be competitive, or only people of certain ranks speak maybe in your meetings. It may be fear of potential backlash, or what I'm hearing in the comments right now is how do we protect ourselves and our intellectual property? Right. So I want to just make a quick note about that because it's going on in the chat right now, and I think it's important. And I, without more information, I'm just going to give a little bit of where I see this going. So people, I don't want to say this, I don't want this to come across as well, it just is what it is. Your ideas are yours, and there's no one who is going to do the work that you do the way you do it. Someone may borrow your language. They may use some of your concepts. But they're going to assemble them differently. They cannot do it the way you do it. They're not going to race you to publication, right? Like, there is no race to publication, right? They're not going to race you to the funder. The way you present what you present is your own. So when people mirror your ideas, in fact, like sometimes listen, there's a way that people are doing this, they're stealing, but sometimes it is your lexicon is becoming a part of their lexicon, right? Your thought leadership is becoming a part of the way that they think about their work. So I'm not sure if we're talking about people stealing and not citing, or if we're talking about ideas that we've had and then we hear them again at a meeting. But we want to be kind of clear about what in our share is ours to own. The ideas are out there, but the way we kind of codify our ideas is through publications, and not just academic publications. You can publish anywhere, right? New York Times, op-ed, you can be on Medium or Thought Catalog or Psychology Today, whatever your area is, right? But it's being able to put it down in some way that's traceable, right? And so that could even be a post that you do for LinkedIn. It doesn't even have to be some official authority, right? But know when it's there with your name on it, it travels with your name. We're not worried about if someone steals a tweet or a term, right? And if it is, you say, this is a term I coined. And when you share it, I use this term to say, you stamp it every time you use it, right? But we can't be so concerned about the steal that we're not concerned about, or more putting our energy into where can I begin to codify this work and attribute it to me. That's the focus. If people are sharing, that means they're still behind you, trying to figure out how to get where you are. Okay. So let's get into approaches. And I want to give us a framework for an approach to self-promotion, because I want us to kind of start to organize the ways that we think about this. So one thing that people ask is, well, what do I share? What do I even share? And especially to be authentic about it, what do I share? And so there's 3 things that you can be sharing: a win, a goal, or a perspective. A win, a goal, or a perspective. And so remember when I had you like say which number you are, you know, in where you might be in your career stage with your self-promotion, you might see how your number kind of maps on to one of these: a win, a goal, or a perspective. And that is targeted. It is shared with your sphere of influence. So the particular people that you're interested in. And I think this matters too, because I see what Nurgul is saying in the comments, that the race to the funder, for example, it happens and is one of the biggest problems. And I would say relationship is what's going to help there, because people can race to the funding source, but with relationship and building relationship with these program officers and program managers over time, people know who you are and they can see your trajectory in your work with relationship, and even just with sharing your work consistently and sharing what you're working on consistently. So again, the energy, in my view, is best spent in how do I get my work done and how do I help people to see the work that I'm doing in places that are relevant to where I'm going. And the race to the funder is just going to be what it is. I don't believe in a zero-sum game. I believe there's enough for everybody, but that's just my perspective. So we're sharing a win, a perspective, or a goal. And so let's break this down a little bit. A win is to help you build awareness, right? So examples of wins might be a milestone, work completed, an award that you received or even your team received, or your student. We often forget that the students that you're mentoring or the residents that you're mentoring, they're winning because of your input, in part because of your input. So some of these wins are things that they may not be personally yours, but it really helps to confer on them support, as well as introducing them to the field and showing people that your students are productive and they're working hard. Right? So wins, this is an example of a win. A goal, this is when, you know what, I don't have it all together yet. I don't have the articles published. I'm just maybe embarking on something, or this is something that I'm really interested in and I'm working toward vigorously. So the goal might be a work in progress. It might be a project that's just launched or a current project that's in the middle. It might be the desired outcomes of a project that you're working on. Or it might be a resource gap, right? So by a resource gap here, I mean, maybe you have a research team that you're assembling for a grant that you're writing, and sharing with others that you're assembling this grant and you're looking for a data analyst with a skill set in, I don't know, Stata or R or Python. Right? It not only shows people what you're working on, I mean, that's really the subtext here. It shows people that you're working on something. And I don't mean this is a share for social media and everyone out there. This might be just a targeted with certain colleagues or with certain peers or mentors, right? Here's a grant that we're ready to submit, but we realize we're missing someone who can do data analysis using this skill set or toolkit. Do you know anyone? Right? So even that is a way of promoting your work. You're sharing work in progress. It's sharing a goal that you're working toward. And then finally, perspective. So sharing a perspective might be a response to something that you're seeing in the public or in your field, around the world, in a particular organization or in a community. So it may be your response to something, right? Remembering that you really are an expert and an authority in your area. So you may have a response. You may have a new approach. Maybe you see how this is going. You see how public opinion and how policy is going, and you have a new approach. Or maybe you see methodologies that have been out there in the past to answer this particular question, but you see a new approach and you're working on a new approach. And it's establishing yourself as the leader in this new approach, or just someone who's thinking about new approaches in this area, right? And then another way to share your perspective might be advocacy on a particular issue, right? So those are some examples of a win, a goal, or a perspective that is targeted and shared with your community, and particularly your sphere of influence. So I want to just say too, who this sphere of influence is, right? So we're clear. You don't have to talk to everyone with every share, right? You want to be specific about who you share what with. And that's because you just want to be targeted. I heard a lot of you in the comments say you don't have a ton of time, right? When do I do this promotion? Well, if we're targeted about what we're sharing and with whom, then we start to cut down on just kind of this, sharing indiscriminately and not knowing where and what sources to do this at. So I'd like to take a moment at this point. Let me just take a quick time check. Okay. I'd like to take a moment and ask you for where you are right now, which, and when I say where you are, I mean a goal that you're working toward right now. Which of these most resonates with you? Where do you see yourself sharing a win, a goal, or a perspective? A win, a goal, or a perspective? Mhm. Okay. Kristen, do you want to share with us? Anne says a win, it's easier content. It sure is. It is easier content.
Um, yeah, I can share a little. So I think part of this is that I have multiple projects in different phases, right? And so I have projects that are in goal phases right now, sorry. Um, and for those, I'm looking to do the building support ideas. But then I have other projects where I'm involved in advocacy. And so those are sort of, I think, more the perspective phases.
So you see how she did that, everyone? She could immediately target specific projects that she's working on to say where she is in order to be targeted about how, and when I say targeted, I just mean strategic, right? So when she sits down to share, she's not feeling overwhelmed or all over the place or like, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden I have to create all this social content, or that somehow self-promotion means social media. Her shares may even be at a meeting. They may be, right? They may be something that's even more intimate, right? It may not be social media. So I also want to debunk that all of this means we're talking about social media, right? But yes, definitely at meetings, these may be meetings that you're going to at a faculty, staff, or community meetings that you're at. So I think Kristen gives us a good example of how to be specific with each thing that we're doing, right? So that we're not everywhere. It could be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be some grand, I want a grant, or I want a book, someone to invite me to write a book or publish a book with them. And that it could be that too, right? So I'm not saying that is not an appropriate and actually very likely thing to happen. But being able to quantify for yourself what the experience is on the other side, what you want to be the outcome of it, helps you to know if you're doing it. Right. So if it's, I want to share my perspective because I want to meet new people in my field, I just want 3 other colleagues around the country who aren't in my department who do this work, then you have a metric for yourself. So you know what your goal is with that share. Right. If it's, I want to be invited to this new publication that's coming out, or this edited volume that I've heard is being created. So now you know who to talk to. Maybe they're not on Twitter. Maybe the people who are working on that edited volume sit somewhere else, or they talk in other spaces and places. Let me see. I wanted to have you write down one that you would share, but I think I want to move a little bit forward to share about the where, because some of you are asking how to do this, and I want to give you some examples of where to share. So first is we want to meet people where they are. So for that sphere of influence, right? Yeah, Kristen, non-sleazy, because that's what I hear people say all the time. I just don't want to sound sleazy, and I don't want to be sleazy with this, like with my networking or my self-promotion. I got you. So small, consistent actions over time is what really helps to build this rapport. And it also builds your confidence with doing something you've not consistently done, which if you're not consistently used to self-promoting, then it's going to feel a little bit awkward for you, right? So some of it is just doing it more will help you. It'll help you get more confident. And honestly, it'll probably help with that engagement that you're looking for when you want people to respond to you, or you want them to respond in a particular way. Well, if you only share once in a blue moon, but if you're kind of constant in conversation with them, or in meaningful ways, it can help. So where? I'd actually like to ask you, with the win, the goal, or the perspective that you have in mind, um, where where is it best suited? And I've put some ideas here on the side of where, right? It can be an email update, listservs for your association, a newsletter for your department or your association. Meetings was one that came up often. An article or an op-ed. I really love a program called the Op-Ed Project. I recommend to a lot of my faculty clients in particular when I'm coaching them, when they're looking to kind of break out their ideas into more popular spaces, but that still have reputation and authority. The Op-Ed Project is an amazing way to help you translate very technical language into something that helps, right? To something that you can, that's something, a way that helps you to communicate it to the public clearly. And they're very low cost, and it's a great way to meet other faculty and other thought leaders as well. So they've got an office in New York. I love them, and they've helped some of my clients get placed in LA Times and things like that. So the Op-Ed Project can be helpful if you're wondering, how do I start to transition my deep knowledge and expertise out? Social media. Are there any other spaces that you can see for, yes, Monica, lunch and learns. Yeah, other spaces that you can see for that win, goal, or perspective that you have in mind. Kristen, interest groups, great. And for all of you, I would say get specific. So Monica, which lunch and learns where? Right? Is it a lunch and learn you do on LinkedIn, virtually? Is it a company or an organization that you know? Where's this lunch and learn happening? Lisa, trade organizations, awesome. So let me give us a quick way, an easy way. I wanted to leave you with something and have you practice a little bit as I look at our time, because a lot of times we think about self-promotion and we think about social media, right? What do I post? All this angst around social media, and it's time consuming. It's thought space that is required. And I want you to think about, though, you already have such a rich network. You already have such a rich network, from mentors to even some of you mentees who've gone on to do amazing work, and you're like impressed by them, right? You're impressed by what they're doing and where they are in their careers. People that you've met at conferences in years past, even if just briefly. There's people that come to mind when you think about the book that you're working on, or the article that you're moving forward, or that grant that you're thinking about. And so I want to bring forward the goals that you have as a way to focus this sharing of the win, the goal, and the perspective. I want to bring some focus to it. And I want to say, here's a quick and easy thing that you can do that doesn't require doesn't have social media strategy to it. It doesn't have all these things to it, but it's really more about personal connection and leveraging relationships that you already have, and getting comfortable first with people that you already know. And so for me, the email update is just a really simple way to do this that doesn't quite put you out there on Front Street like social media might, right? But it's a way to get comfortable and kind of reacquaint yourself with your network and have them know what you're doing if it's been a while. So colleagues, one of my colleagues from his Harvard Business School, he's like, this is something that he learned in Harvard Business School, like just really simple, really easy and quick to do. But the way that it's done can be very helpful. And so it's just a simple email. So I've kind of templated it out a way that you might get started with it, and also to keep it short, right? So here's just an example that you can adapt to your needs. Dear name, and you can send this to a few people as a group, or you can send it to an individual. If you're sending it to a group, I would say be strategic about that. So if it's, I want to update my mentors, you might do that one-on-one. Or if it's, there's value in these three mentors knowing each other, maybe it's, I am actively connecting you all because I think, there may be some interest in you all working together. I don't know, but this is the email. You need an intro, an opening. It was great to brainstorm with you at our last conference. I'm writing to keep you posted on what I'm working on in case there are any synergies between our work or ways I can support you in your goals. And then you put update 1 through 3, at most 5, think at most 5. And then a wrap up. Let me know if there's anything here you'd like to chat about. Good luck this semester. Now you can be more direct. I softened this a little bit. The ending might be, so much to my point, what I said to Omaris, it might be, actually asking to chat about a specific thing that's here, or asking, hey, for this, number 1 that's here, I'm wondering if you know of anyone who might have this, who might be an editor at, or if you can recommend a data analyst that I'm looking for this project, or data analyst with this skill set, right? So you can be as direct as you feel comfortable to be, but I would go for directness again, so people know what to do with what you are sharing. So if you have something in mind that you want them, information you need or something you want, just put it in there. Okay, so I'm going to go deeper into the example by showing you examples of how to write these 1, 2, and 3. So very quick, right? Number 1, I got to revise and resubmit for my article on, you can be brief, share the title, to the Journal of Latin American and Caribbean Anthropology. I'm co-authoring with one of my residents, it would be students in this case, a win-win for my tenure packet that's due in a few months and for their exposure in this tiny field, right? We've humanized it. We have shown a bit of work in progress, right? So maybe the article isn't done yet. That's okay. It gives the person an idea of what you're working on. And that's also why I put here article on. Use your top 2 or 3 keywords. You don't need to give the whole title, but the idea is to remind people what you're working on, right? It's to remind them of what you're working on. The co-authoring with one of your students, it's again, kind of showing where you are in your career and with your work. The win-win for your tenure packet, you're kind of letting them know, I'm coming back for letters, right? So there's things that are happening here that we're signaling. You don't need to use all of this, but it's to give you an example of just how with 2 sentences, you can do a lot. You can say a lot, right? And especially if you're not ready for a direct ask, it's bringing people along. So by the time 2 months from now, you send another one of these, you can make a direct ask. All right. The second one, and this probably would not be the same person, but secured a data analyst for the NSF grant I'm writing. That was the last collaborator we needed to round out our research team. Now on this one, I would probably say what the grant is about. I think that's just important. Again, 2 to 3 keywords about what it's about, because remember, we're updating people. We want them to be tracking with us through our careers and what we're working on. And then third, this one might resonate for those of you who are thinking about perspective, right? That might be the thing that you're doing. I'm searching for the right home for an article that I wrote on why the public should care about the cost of their cup of coffee. It's an inroad to make a statement about climate change, environmental policy, and inflation. I'm thinking about the LA Times or New York Times in case you know of any editors. All right. Is this template something you could see yourself using or adapting? From what we've talked about today, what is one action that you can take? And I won't say now because I know everybody is exhausted with the end of the year, but at the top of the year to help you have a more powerful year in building your leadership visibility. What's one, as small as you need it to be, as big as you want it to be, one thing that you can do to take action on what you've learned today? I wanted to also share with you, definitely if you would like to stay connected, I am on LinkedIn and Instagram, and of course, email Fatima at Beyond the Tenure Track. But I am hopeful and really excited for all the ways that you can see yourselves moving forward with the work that we have discussed today. And just remember that everything that you're doing has value, and it's not just for you. Okay, it is not just for you. It is for the purpose of your work and also the people that are on the other end of receiving the benefits of your work. If we hide it, they don't get it, right? If we don't make it available, we make it hard for them to receive from the work that we're creating solutions for them for. All right. And I'll just leave this slide up as the session ends, because I wanted to make sure I leave you with some sentence starters as well that might be helpful for you. I know it can be tough to say, oh, well, how do I say this in a way that's not sleazy but authentic? And again, adapt these to your own voice, but these can also be a helpful resource for you.